Welcome to the apex of sports ownership, the Apex Athletic Collective.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 34 of Instigate Success, Building an ABA Franchise. We are heading into the first week of playoffs for the Hoosier State Instigators, and we will be in the play-in tournament tomorrow at noon. So just around the corner, we're going to be in our first playoff game. We'll have an opportunity to advance following that game. And we are the 4 seed out of the 7 teams in our division. So we have an opportunity with a win tomorrow to play at our home court. So I'm really hoping that can happen. We'll jump all into the playoff situations here in tonight's episode for Instigate Success. You might have noticed I have a little bit of a different look. So for the playoffs, I decided to change up my look a little bit. Got my hair done a little bit different. It's probably a little bit difficult to see with the headphones on, but you can check out my socials at Jake the MVF. That's on Instagram. There's a post on there for more information on that. I've got a couple of close-up pictures here too, as well. So I've got grills in right now, and I got my hair done. I've got like cornrows for the playoffs. So I'll be rocking that for the whole playoffs. This is my playoff Jakey look. So hopefully you guys can keep me in this look for a while, but I'll be keeping this at least for as long as we are in the playoffs. So that's my news for the week, but we'll jump into the Instigators news here. This past week, we had our free scrimmage game between Team Dylan and Team AB. Team AB wound up walking away with the victory, but it was a fun event to watch. I didn't have the chance to play myself, but we had some of our other owners on the court, including Corey Kern, our head coach, as well as Jay Spacely. Both of those guys put up some points and some other statistics, including boards. So it's cool to see those guys on the court show what they were able to do, and have a free stream for some people to watch and hopefully get their interest for the playoffs. And we'll jump right to the playoffs then. So tomorrow we are hosting the Indiana Legends, even though it is at a neutral site. Our home venue, the Clinton CRC, was not available for a time for tomorrow. So we're playing at the Crossroads Community Church in Bedford, Indiana. A little bit of a different venue as far as a home venue for us. And the time is a little bit different than our normal game times. This is at noon, so 12 p.m. That's noon Eastern time tomorrow. So that is a little bit over 12 hours away. That's what, 15 hours away from right now. So less than a day to go. And we are in our very first playoff game. In this game, we are the 4 seed. The Legends are the number 7 seed. We've played the Legends a few different times throughout the season. I know the biggest storyline, we always say this when we play the Legends, is that the Legends have one of our former players on the team. Yogi Anderson has transitioned from the Hoosier State Instigators as at the beginning of the season to the Indiana Legends. As always, that's going to be a guy to keep your eye on in that game. And even though we have beat the Legends in the 2 matchups prior, that last matchup against the Legends was a lot closer compared to the first game. And the Legends in the second half of the season, much like the Instigators, have kind of rallied and shown that they're able to stick with just about any team. The Instigators, we are coming off of loss in the final game of the season against the Lions. However, we were able to hold our own against the Lions. And I think if we could kind of carry the momentum from the past few games prior to that going into these playoffs, our team is going to be pretty tough to compete against, regardless of who the opponent is. But this game, again, a little bit different time and location. I will actually be making the flight out in the morning. I'll be there in person. So I'll be there in person for hopefully all the playoff games. But I know for this weekend, I'm going out to Indiana. So I'll be there in person to help provide some live commentary as we're going through the games. Is Normally we provide commentary remotely, but wanted to be there in person for the playoffs. So this is going to be a lot of fun, but a lot of key matchups in this game. I think it's really going to come down to, as cliche as it sounds, who wants it most. This is the playoffs are single elimination, so any game can be the game that sends you home. You can't look at the record of the opponents and say, this on paper we look better than them. Just because it's on paper doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. So we put our heads down going into this game. I think we've got a good shot. I do have a little promo video here. I think we're going to put this up before the game tomorrow. But this does have how this matchup looks on paper. So we'll run that real quick and dive more into this matchup. Yeah, so as we saw in that, let me see. I know I've got the slide here. So our first matchup, that was a 20-point victory, but that second game, as I alluded to, that was a much closer matchup. That was a 5-point victory. And the scoring also significantly increased for the Legends in that second game. If you look at their points per game on the season compared to the games we've played against them, I mean, both teams have scored more than they traditionally have. So that is another thing to keep in mind. This seems like it's going to be another high-scoring game going into the play-in tournament. But we're definitely going to have to make sure our offense can keep up throughout the whole game. I think in the second half of the season, we've done a really nice job of that. I know the third quarter has been a struggle in the beginning of the season, but I think we finally jumped over that barrier. Once we hit 2024, I think that's really when we turned it up to the next level, and we've been able to have a real good second half. There's a couple of games throughout the season. If you look back at the quarter by quarter, half by half type of stats, I know the Kings game, the second Kings game that we played, we broke it down by the half. I think we were literally neck and neck with them in the second half. I believe we were the same exact score in the second half. So I think we've really turned things around in that second half of the season and the second half of the games. But it seems like offense might be more at a premium in this type of matchup based off of what we've seen in the past. I know we looked at stats last week. I think I've still got the slide for that as well. So looking at the season, our leading point scorer has been Swish, Lawan Whitney. So hopefully he can keep that up. And if he can keep up that 50+% from threes, he's been pretty deadly from three throughout the whole season. That could definitely be a key factor in this week in this first game that we have here in the play-in tournament. Um, and we're definitely going to need some of our defensive effort here too. Chuck always puts up some great stats. I think he's really going to be, he's a team captain for a reason. He's going to be one of our most important guys here in the playoffs to kind of rally everyone around him. And he's really stepped up the past couple of weeks. I really like the play he's been doing, where he kind of built himself down low, and he's shown that he's able to kind of body some of these other players who are a little bit taller than him. He's definitely not 7 feet like AB, but he's been able to stay down low and body his way into some points and rebounds, get himself to the free throw line. And I think free throws is also one thing that might have been a struggle throughout the season for the Instigators, that we're going to have to keep an eye on as we go into the playoffs. I think that is really something that could be maybe not in the best interest of the Instigators, but we've had games where we're much better and games where the free throw line hasn't gone our way. But I think we're just gonna have to put our heads down and do what we do. And if we can come out and play how we've been playing, I think we're gonna be able to take care of business on Saturday. And then looking at that, the tournament bracket, this is, I'll be honest, this is stolen from a Lions post, but this is what the tournament bracket looks like. So if we're able to progress past the legends tomorrow, then we're keeping a close eye on the game. That's at 7 p.m. So that's a late night game for the Louisville Pros and the Clarksville Phoenix. And whoever is the winner of that game will match up against the winner of our game. So they will be playing again, both of these teams, the next day. So Sunday, keep your schedule open. We'll be hopefully playing again on Sunday. But regardless, the second game in the play in tournament is going to be on Sunday. If we're the team to advance, that game will be Sunday at 5 p.m. at our home venue, the Clinton CRC. And we would be playing the winner of the Pros and Phoenix matchup. And whoever wins that game then would go on to the next round. And it looks like they would be playing the Ohio Kings, which is going to be a very tough matchup. The Kings are undefeated on the season, and the winner of that would then play the Aces and Lions winner. Uh, then whoever wins that would go to the championship for our region. We are in the Central region, the red division within that region. So these are all 7 seeds within the region. Lions, I believe, were the number 1 seed. Kings number 2, Aces 3, and then we are number 4. 4 through 7 are part of the play-in tournament here, and that play-in tournament is what starts this weekend. The following weekend will start the playoffs for the semifinals in the Central region, and that will decide ultimately who is representing the red division in the Central region. But yeah, so if we're able to progress past the game tomorrow, again, that's at noon tomorrow, then it would go to this here. So it'd be the winner of the Clarksville and Louisville game, and they would have to travel to our home venue, the Clinton CRC, at 5 p.m. on Sunday. Again, honestly did not realize how tight of a schedule that is. So that's actually going to be a really tight schedule for whoever winds up winning that game. Assuming we're able to progress past the legends, it would literally be, the next day for both teams, which is short rest for anybody to play again the next day. We would have a little bit more rest though, being that we're coming from a game at noon tomorrow. the Phoenix and the Pros are playing at 7 p.m. Let me just look that up real quick and see how far of a travel that is from Clarksville to Clinton. Again, I am in Daytona, so I'm not 100% familiar with the relative location between those two areas, both in Tennessee and Indiana. It looks like that's about 4 hours, so that's actually a pretty decent trip. Um, yeah, and I see this comment here from Jason. Nice to have you here on the stream as well. So yeah, I this is what I just pulled as far as the bracket. I'll double check because I did think the same exact thing when I posted this. I thought it was supposed to be the Kings and the Aces, and then the Lions would be playing um, the winner of the play-in games. But I will double check. I think this is what I just pulled. Yeah, I pulled this from the Lions Facebook. It looks like they posted this 2 days ago. Um, so I think that is what they're being told as far as what the playoff bracket would look like. But I did think the same thing initially when I posted this was I thought the Lions were the team that would have the winner of the quarterfinal game, and then it would be the Kings and the Aces. I guess we still do have a week to figure that out, but I know things are kind of fluent within the ABA, so maybe something changed with that, but I'm not 100% sure. What we do know is we play at noon. I do know that for a fact tomorrow, and then the winners of the games tomorrow will play on Sunday, and I guess we'll have a week to figure out. But it looks like as of right now, it would be the Kings, whoever the winner of the quarterfinals is, would play, and then it would be between the Aces and the Lions um, for the other semifinal game. But I will be completely honest. I think that actually makes it a little bit tougher on whoever the winner of the quarterfinals are. The Kings had less games played. However, they have been a pretty dominant team throughout the whole season. They have yet to lose a game. But I think because of how many games they played initially, we were under the impression that the Lions would be the number one seed. Um, but I think regardless of who the matchup is, um, you gotta have that playoff mentality and just know like it's single elimination. You gotta go in there. It's very much like March Madness. So even if you don't have the best record on paper, it's right now that matters. So you gotta show the whole ABA exactly what we're capable of. And there's a couple of things on the line, not only for the players but I guess myself as well. I'll be keeping this look for as long as we're in the playoffs, so hopefully that's a good motivator as well. And I will definitely, after last game I attended, I will be wearing the semi-pro shoes. Hopefully those are good luck because that was the only time I wore the semi-pro shoes, and that was the only game that I was in attendance in person that we were able to win. So gonna hopefully keep that streak alive with the semi-pro shoes. And there's also if we make it to the championship, I will add to my tattoo underneath. I will add the championship logo for the ABA championship. So hopefully we can control my appearance as well, and make a long playoff run here. But I think the way we've looked in the second half of the season definitely is in our favor. And we'll take a look back at our season here. So as we see, we kind of started off on a rough patch, and we started off the season at was it 2-6, I believe. Yeah, 2-6. We started off the season, and we wound up finishing with a record of 7-9. So we've pretty much flipped the script from that point on in the season. I think a lot of it, honestly, would have to do with the coaching change. Interim coach Corey Curran has stepped in, aka Frosty, one of the co-owners and founder of the Apex Athletic Collective. Um, Probably not the way he expected to end a first season as the coach of the team, but he's done an amazing job stepping in, and we've had a great rotation with him ever since he took over. His first game was against the Kings, I do believe, that last game in 2023. But once we hit 2024, things definitely took a turn for the best. We won our first game in 24. That was a matchup here against the Legends, and that was a home game for us. Then there was the forfeit against with the Aces, the last minute cancellation. Then the matchup against the Lions. That number, the final score, I don't think is quite indicative of how close that game was. There's a couple of games throughout the season where I feel that happened. Very close matchups. However, the final score just doesn't quite capture the intensity that went into that game. Then our other matchup against the Legends, that was at their home venue. So this is literally, it's going to be a third game, and we kind of split the season here with home and aways with them. But we'll add a neutral site here, so that's kind of a cool thing. This is going to be our first game that's a home game at a neutral site. Um, I do think the Bedford, Indiana. I could be wrong. I feel like in my head that's ringing a bell. That may have been where we played our preseason scrimmage against the IBL Shuckers. I could be wrong, but I think that for some reason is ringing a bell in my head. So we'll see tomorrow at noon, or maybe a little bit earlier, especially if I pull up to the court. But I think that may have been actually where we played that. So I don't. It might not be our first time at this venue. I think that it is going to be our second time at the venue. But anyways, then we played the Kings. That was that game that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast. We were very close in the second half of the game. I believe, we literally had the same score in the second half, but first half we were on the wrong end against the Kings. Then the Phoenix potential matchup that we could see in the playoffs here just on Sunday, if we're able to progress past the Legends, then we would either be playing one of the next two teams here on that graphic, the Phoenix or the Pros. So if we look at that second half of the season, we have beaten all of the teams that are in the play-in tournament this weekend. So we are definitely capable of progressing past the play-in tournament and going to the quarterfinals and the semifinals for our division. But you know, as I've said a few times here, it's a clean slate here in the playoffs. Every team has to go out and earn it. Nothing is given once we get to this point in the season. I think basketball really is like one of those sports, especially where once the playoffs hits, it's almost like some teams just turn it up to a completely another level. Um, you watch the Lakers with LeBron, or I guess any team that's had LeBron in his recent history, he kind of just kicks it up a notch once it goes to the playoffs. And, they may not have the best record throughout the season, but, once it goes to the playoffs, you got guys like LeBron that you can count on. Hopefully, we have some guys here like AB and Swish, among other players that can kind of, emulate that kind of presence on the court in the playoffs. But I definitely think, we spoke with AB a few times here on a podcast, and he definitely mentioned that once it hits the playoffs, he has another level that he's looking to turn it up to. And he's looking to make a long playoff run for the Hoosier State Instigators. So really looking forward to that. But you look at it on paper, and I think we did get a good draw here. Being the 4 seed, we do have home court advantage for the play-in tournament. I'm really hoping we get another chance to play at the Clinton CRC. We'd love to show out for our home crowd, and kind of make up for that one game that we had the forfeit with the Aces, that we missed out on an opportunity to be at our home court throughout the season. So I think that would kind of make up for that. Um, but I really hope that can happen. I know that would be an amazing opportunity, and I'll definitely be in Indiana for the weekend. So I'm hoping that I can catch 2 games, instead of just one. Um, but we'll jump back to the stats here on the season. Um, but we see here, we've got AB is on that season leaders list a few times. I think he is going to be the guy where there's a couple of guys here we're going to have to rely on, but I think he has kind of stepped up. He's won the most player of the weeks in the season, and he's kind of been our go-to guy when it comes down to the line. He's 7 feet tall, so it's a little bit easier for him than many other people to kind of create his own offense. And I don't believe the Legends have anybody that's quite as tall as him. So that's going to be my player to watch. Even though it's kind of a cop out answer here, I think that's kind of the player to watch that everybody would kind of pinpoint. But I think AB, if he can kind of just play his game how he has been playing throughout the season, that is really what we're going to need in the game tomorrow. And then if our guys can step up like they have in the second half of the season, and another guy that we had, he had his one player of the week in the season against the Legends was actually Aubrey Patterson. And let me pull up his stats real quick. I know he had an amazing game against the Legends when we matched up against them in this season, and he earned a Player of the Week in that matchup. Um, yeah, he had 35 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists in that first matchup on January 7th against the Legends. So that's another guy that I think we'll really have to keep an eye on. He co-led the team in scoring in that matchup. AB also had 35 points in that game, but I think that might be a guy to keep an eye on here, especially when it comes to the guard play. If we have a matchup between Aubrey Patterson and Yogi Anderson, I know being former teammates, we had them on a podcast here, and they said that was a little bit of an extra intensity when you go up against your former teammates and friends. Both AB and Aubrey Patterson mentioned that. So I think not only is the playoffs here on the line, but there's also a little bit of bragging rights. So I'm hoping those two can combine for a big game and carry the momentum that we have in the second half of the season into the playoffs tomorrow. And let me see. I think that may have honestly been pretty much everything I had scheduled for today on Instigate Success. Again, if you didn't see it in the beginning of the podcast here, there's some close-ups, a little bit better pictures. You can also check me out on Instagram at Jake the MVF. But yeah, so for the playoffs, as long as we're in the playoffs, I'll be wearing my hair like this in the cornrows, and I'll be rocking some grills. But that is just a little bit of news from me for the playoffs. But we'll be live tomorrow in not that much time. Again, noon. Definitely a different start time than normal. Noon Eastern time. at a different location than normal as well for a home game at the Crossroads Community Church in Bedford, Indiana. Um, but I'll be on a flight in not too long. So, but I'll be catching a flight real early in the morning, and I'll be landing in Indiana before the game, driving out to the venue. But we're really looking forward to the playoffs. I think there'll be a little bit more to dissect once we get through this weekend of playoffs. Fingers crossed everything goes the right way for our team. But this matchup here against the Legends, we've seen on paper again that looks pretty favorable. Both games we've been able to pull off against them, and then the potential game on Sunday would be 5 p.m. Against either the Phoenix or the Pros. And we've shown in the second half of the season we have beaten all three of these teams that we could be matching up against in the playoffs here this weekend in the play-in tournament. Again, we'll be live tomorrow right around noon. We might be live a little bit earlier than noon Eastern time here on Patreon to catch the live games for the playoffs and the play-in tournament for your Hoosier State Instigators. As always, until next time, be great and instigate.